First, I'd like to say I'm an American historian with a passion for Poland and a love for truth and accuracy in everything involving history. This can be confrontational and disturbing to some people who believe a certain way and who have been taught that one way is right, regardless of the facts that prove otherwise. And wanting to promote accuracy about Polish history, which is complicated, I've come up against pushback, angry responses, and threats. Regardless, what is most important to me is telling it like it is. Isn't the truth what we should all be seeking? Keep an open mind and remember what's at stake. George Orwell wrote, "In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act." I believe we live in that time, and we must commit to revolutionary acts. So, let's talk about Poland, Polish history, current events, and an act that is aimed at Poland, but can affect us here in America. Poland was completely ruined at the end of World War II. Polish citizens were targeted for mass extermination by the Germans, who murdered 3 million ethnic Poles and 3 million Polish Jews. The number of Polish citizens lost is estimated at up to 1/5 of its pre-war population. Poland experienced physical destruction like no other country in Europe, with 84% of its infrastructure and 62% of industry destroyed. Poland suffered unquestionably, proportionately, the greatest human and material loss of any country during World War II, and Germany never paid Poland any reparations. Subsequently, Poland was placed under an oppressive and brutal 40 years of Soviet rule, betrayed by its allies as a result of the Roosevelt-Stalin-Churchill Agreement in Yalta in 1945. All that hell and suffering and a sense of betrayal. That was Poland until the Iron Curtain fell in 1991. It was only then that Poland could take a breath and start building a modern, prosperous country and start catching up with the rest of the World War II winners and losers who started rebuilding their much less devastated countries in 1945 with the help of the Marshall Plan. Fast forward to now, another betrayal, another attempt at the destruction of Poland. I'm talking about Public Law 115-171, commonly known as Act S-447. Not only is it unfair, and the consequences of its implementation could be devastating to Poland, but it's also harmful to the U.S. Our American Constitution and its legal foundations are in danger. The U.S. Congress passed the law in April 2018, and I really don't think that President Trump and the Congress realize this legislation destroys law and order in the world. Yes, it can be used against our country. This violates the American Constitution and breaks international law when asking to give properties left heirless to American and Jewish organizations who believe they should receive properties and assets from Poland. So-called Jewish restitution organizations are now claiming that Poland owes them money estimated at $300 billion and thousands of properties left heirless by Polish citizens of Jewish descent after the Second World War. These were legally transferred to the Polish state, as it was the same law anywhere else in the world. Imagine this confusion. It would be like some agency showing up at your shopper house claiming it was theirs just because people of their religion died 80 years ago and they supposedly owned it, yet they have no proof, even though your grandfather built it from the ground up and you legally own it just because they say so. Isn't that bordering on insane? I think so, but this act was passed simply because of the political pull that these people and organizations have. They have lots of money to influence people. That's really kind of shady and dishonest. These people bent on extortion believe that all of a sudden now they deserve this massive amount of property and money to be transferred to them from people that also suffered from the German genocide. Remember, 6 million Polish died in the Nazi German genocide. 3 million were Jews, 3 million were ethnic Poles. The country was destroyed, but now Jewish organizations believe that they are owed money and property over non-Jews. On top of this, Poland was given to Stalin and substantially nationalized by the communists. In Poland, courts had been giving back properties to anyone who had proof of ownership, if it was proven and legal for years, the right way. What we're seeing is the wrong way. Jews, Jewish organizations in the state of Israel have been receiving billions from Germany and other countries for years, and Poland has received practically nothing. And now they want additional handouts from Poland, the country who was an ally, fought the Nazi Germans, their citizens murdered, tortured, deported by both the Soviets and the Nazis. I consider this shameful. When will this stop? We also need to know some background on real Polish Jewish history, not the one-sided history that portrays Poles as peasant pigs, collaborators with the Nazis, hell-bent on burning Jews in pogroms, ready to move into the houses of the dead. Israeli envoy Ambassador Israel Katz says Poles suckle anti-Semitism in their mother's milk and had no real recourse. It was just brushed off. What if a Polish leader said that? There would be all sorts of hell. But to criticize Jews, well, you know, you could get in a lot of trouble for that, and it could even land you in prison if you question the Holocaust. Here's some Polish Jewish history that most people don't know. Many Jews were actually part of Stalin's communist government, and after the war were involved in the torture and murders of tens of thousands of Poles who fought the Nazis. Jews were even involved in the trial, torture, and death of Witold Pilecki, a mostly unknown Polish hero to the world, who actually volunteered for Auschwitz and escaped and then tried to warn the Allies of the Jewish Holocaust, a truly incredible accomplishment. After the war, he was tortured personally by two of the most notorious Jewish Stalinists, both ironically rescued by the Poles from Nazi Germans during the occupation of Poland. Pilecki was executed by a shot to the back of the head at the Molotov prison by Staff Sergeant Piotr Śmietański, another Jew, nicknamed the Butcher. Pilecki said of his time with the Soviets that Auschwitz was child's play. There are even documented cases of Jews murdering the same people that saved them from the Holocaust. Many of these murderers then emigrated to Israel, and when Poland tried to extradite them and try them for war crimes, Israel refused. One, Solomon Morel, ran a camp after the war that had Poles. One survivor, Dorota Borashek, camp survivor, said, "I was taken there when I was 14 with my mother. I still don't know why we were there. They told us when we arrived, you are here and you are here to die, although nobody will shoot you because ammunition is too expensive." While Israel and Jews were out hunting Nazis, tens of thousands of sadistic criminals were living in their own backyard. How terribly ironic. Even when the Soviets invaded in 1939, Jews in the East put up archways and greeted the Red Army with flowers. They changed the old town government and proposed a new one drawn up from the local population of Jews. They arrested the police and the teachers. They led the NKVD, that's the special police, to apartments and houses and denounced Polish patriots. They were involved in the executions and deportations of approximately 1.8 million of their Polish neighbors to Siberia. Can you imagine the betrayal? Most people never hear about these incidences and just blame Poles for anti-Semitism. This is why I say it is the truth that we should seek. You have to look at both sides of the story. Sadly, many Jews have been bashing Poland for years and have also been trying to place Poland as a collaborator with the Nazi Germans, when historically, as you can see now, many things are either fabricated or conveniently absent. This is just part of an agenda. There's actually true Holocaust revisionism, and many pseudo-historians have jumped on the anti-Polish bandwagon, profiting greatly with their biased, hateful, historically inaccurate fictional works. Polish Jewish history, as you can see, is complicated and not one-sided. We have to be objective if we truly want to understand. There is so much to the story that needs to be looked at in detail and assessed. But unfairly, people only get to hear the Jewish side. Of course, everyone knows that the Jews suffered horribly, but we rarely hear about Jewish collaboration with the Nazis, and like with the Soviets, it's really quite involved and active. It's just another part of the agenda, this time trying to shift the blame. Of course, there were bad Poles that collaborated, but that was only 1% of 1%, and anyone who did faced a death penalty from the Polish Home Army. Jews were involved in all levels with the Nazis. Jewish councils, Judenrat, Jewish police, Gestapo informers. 1941 and the beginning of 1942, it was estimated that 15,000 Jews were in the Gestapo, killing Poles and Jews alike. In the concentration camp, Jews were put at the head of work groups called capos. They were feared more than the SS. So to hear such erroneous slander against Poles without hearing both sides is just trying to shift the blame, like I said, and we got to stop that. We have to stop the distortion and accept the truth for what it is, blemishes and all. Even after this, hundreds of thousands of Poles helped in saving the lives of Jews. Tens of thousands of Polish martyrs died horrific deaths just for assisting Jews. Only in Poland would you and your whole family receive the death penalty for even giving a Jew water. Imagine that. And after all you've heard about Jewish-Polish relations, whole towns were wiped out for helping Jews. Polish Christian charity and tolerance has been completely rewritten. And to me, as someone so involved with historical accuracy in Poland, I'm appalled. And I'm saddened that such incredibly honorable people are basically spat upon. These are agenda-driven attacks, and they simply are ethically and morally wrong. To anyone truly interested in protecting historical integrity, remembering the sacrifice of heroes, and making a difference in the world, now is the time to make a stand. Incredibly brave, honorable people have been slandered and are hated, partially because Poles were blocked behind the Iron Curtain, and also because they don't have the access and funding to the media like Jewish groups do. They have never been given the chance to speak out, to tell their story. It's about time to hear the Polish story too. Remember, all this propaganda works together now to turn people's opinions against Poland. The barrage of xenophobic attacks on Poland and the Poles must stop. Fight back. Let's start now by stopping this deceitful legislation. 115-171, Act S 447. For us in the U.S., this legislation also sets an unconstitutional precedent which will open the doors and invite other frauds and violations in the U.S. law. This will spread to the U.S. What would happen if we would seriously treat heirless property claims and introduce this concept into American law? It would mean that the entire United States would have to disappear from the map of the world. Why? Because every square inch of the U.S. land would not belong to the present owners of the United States, but to Native Americans. Some people would like that, but most, I assure you, would not. World War II caused the richest harvest of human life in the history of the world. During the 6 years of the war, over 60 million people were killed. Remember, not a single citizen of Israel died in the war because Israel did not exist. The Polish Jews were Polish citizens. There is no such thing in the world as Jewish ownership, as some Jewish organizations claim. Remember, Poland respects and is willing to compensate Holocaust survivors, and always has been, if they can prove that they or their heirs are legal owners. There is a body of laws in Poland which address property restitution. Processes have to be initiated, and the same steps apply to all Polish citizens that are World War II German genocide survivors, regardless of their faith. Like everywhere, if a citizen passes away without heirs or a will, the property transfers to the state. That is international law. So, here Poland today is accused by the media, U.S. Congress, Israeli officials, Jewish organizations of stealing Jewish property in Poland. That again is just propaganda, absurd and historically incorrect. Poland did everything according to Polish law, which complies with international legal standards. Poland is one of the biggest victims of World War II. And remember, When I mentioned heirless property, that's the key. They want heirless property to be given to Jewish organizations. Also, Public Law 115-171 Act S447 only mentions one group of victims. It doesn't mention others. The Nazi German genocide in Poland was horrifying, and all people deserve to remember. Stopping 114-171 Act S447 will prevent robbing Poland by so-called Jewish restitution organizations, shamelessly abusing the Holocaust to get rich. Again, hopefully this will also be a step in reminding the world that the Nazi German genocide is not just about one people. Millions of people died in World War II. Marketing, suffering, and the abuse of victimhood for agendas should stop. We should remember all that perished and not favor one people over another simply because they are one faith or race. If we keep doing that, we would not be much further along from the philosophy of Hitler's supremacist belief that some people are more valuable than others. Please help us stop this extortion and historical revisionism and sign the petition to U.S. Congress and repeal legislation 115-171 Act S447. Protect the U.S. Constitution.